Joe, you had a point that you wanted to make about trade and whatnot and the energy issues. So please make that point.
Yes, I think another big event that happened this year and is going to have repercussions next year and beyond is the energy crisis, which centered in Europe but wasn't confined to it. I mean, it has its origins with Angela Merkel's decision to get off nuclear in Germany, and the I guess the magical thinking that renewables could replace fossil fuels, and that crisis was already building before Russia invaded Ukraine, and then of course that exacerbated it tremendously. So national security has been eroded, costs have ballooned, and countries are desperate to heat the homes of their citizens and not do so in a way which is going to prevent them from affording the food that they need to live. You know that energy prices, electricity prices in the UK are the highest in the world.
Right.
Germany is taking down windmills to access coal mines, and I just heard that this is amazing that Switzerland is talking about restrictions on the use of electric vehicles because of concern about not having enough power to supply them. So there's some lessons to be learned, and of course Canada needs a lot of lessons because we might have had an opportunity with our immense oil and gas to have helped our European allies, but we literally can't deliver.
Well, I mean, is there a future opportunity? The rest of the panel, I noticed that the UK, by the way, is opening up its first new coal mine in decades. So this is a trend. Sandra, did you want to weigh in on this one first?
Well, I guess I've been pretty open about my views on taking opportunities to help the globe from Canada. And that really does mean that we've got to take a good way to get our energy out of the ground. And I think our companies have done better and better at that every year. They're doing that in more of a carbon footprint free way than before. But we do have to get those pipelines, access, send it. I mean, we had those announcements when the Germans arrived in Newfoundland to talk about hydrogen potential. So there is a lot going on. And I think the crisis made us sort of have a better look at ourselves to say, what can we do in the meantime while we're getting into renewables, while we're getting into other and better sources of energy? Getting people to natural gas instead of coal does a tremendous good for the economy. And I think we need to know that so we can produce that and we can ship that. And I think we've got to look at this incremental benefit that Canada can produce for the world and get on it. And frankly, I think the Ukrainians would prefer to have some kind of heat, even if it's from natural gas right now.
Yeah. Gary, sorry, Joe.
Well, I say that the Prime Minister should appoint Sandra Pupatello as the Minister of Natural Resources in Canada.
Now, you heard it here first.
Because you had so much fun with that job, didn't you, Joe?
Gary, let's give Gary a shot at this because I'd love to get Gary's reaction when the Germans announced their LNG multi-decade agreement with Qatar, and we're probably kind of on the sidelines in tears. So, Gary, how did you feel about that?
Well, I think it bespeaks of the Prime Minister who, you'll recall, said that there was no business case that he'd seen for LNG in Canada. I think that the evidence is quite abundant with Qatar that, in fact, there is a strong case for it. I think it was inappropriate or wrong for the Prime Minister to say that in the first place because it's not his job. It's a decision that companies should be making as to whether or not there's a business case. The issue for the Prime Minister is actually the process by which there can be approvals for large-scale projects of infrastructure or LNG terminals and so on. And this is really noted in 2022 that we haven't had approvals of any such projects under the current, what used to be called Bill C-69, now called the Impact Assessment Act, which is going to the Supreme Court of Canada in March of 2023. Regardless of what the decision is.
I'm going to have to break you off there, though. We are taking a brief break. We'll catch up with you, Gary, right after the break. Please stay with us.